Welcome to the Academic Woman Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Mazak, tenured full professor, mom of three, and firm believer that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello there. On today's podcast, I'm sharing with you an episode from a private podcast feed that I created in October 2021 called 7 Steps to a Legacy Building Career. Now, I publicized this private podcast feed exclusively to people on my email list. So if that wasn't you, maybe you didn't hear about it. And I wanted to share one of my favorite episodes from that mini private podcast feed. It's called Leading for Legacy. Now, if you want to get all the episodes, you can subscribe to this private podcast by going to the link in the show notes. Click on the link. It will open in your favorite podcast. You'll be able to open it in your favorite podcast player and listen to all 7 episodes. Now, I want to remind you, first of all, we are coming up on a holiday break for our company. So we're going to take a little bit of a podcast hiatus during the holidays, and we'll be back in the new year, 2022. Meanwhile, though, I would love for you to download the 7 Steps to a Legacy Building Career podcast feed. So, you can keep me in your earbuds all through the holiday break. Also, I want to let you know that our Elevate program is still open for enrollment, but you need to act fast because we are going on our holiday break. So you need to get your application in and your deposit to hold your spot to us as soon as possible. This podcast is going to drop on the week we're closing enrollment for Elevate. So have a listen to this podcast. If you like what you hear today, go and check out the private podcast feed that I have linked up in the show notes, or just go directly to our Elevate info session for more. You can find the link for that in the show notes as well. And you can listen to our info session, apply for Elevate. I'm sitting on my inbox waiting for your application. I'm sure that as long as it, meets our community criteria, that we will approve it and you can save your spot. There's only a few spots left and enrollment is closing. If you're mid-career, if you're post-tenure and you want to participate in our 2022 cohort of Elevate, the only one that we are enrolling in 2022, then we need to get your application soon. All right. I hope you enjoy this episode, Leading for Legacy. Today, we are talking about step 6, which is leading for legacy. Now, post-tenure, you are holding up a lot of people. Okay. And what I mean by this is that you have family and friends depending on you. You have graduate students depending on you. You have junior faculty depending on you, research colleagues, co-authors. The longer you live in academia, the more people you have connected to you and looking to you for leadership. Now, we talked in a previous episode about how that network of people around you, we really want to be thinking about them as a team that is supporting you. But in Leading for Legacy, we're going to take a little bit of a different tack on that group of people that you are pouring into and who are helping you create your legacy, but who are also enacting your legacy in the world, right? Your students are doing that. Potentially, your junior colleagues are doing that, co-authors and things. They are helping you to build out that research or teaching or service legacy that you are building for yourself. And that can feel really heavy. It can feel heavy. It can feel hard. So it's really appropriate, I think, in mid-career to really think about leadership and how closely it's related to mentoring. So I want to talk a little bit, and I think I've talked on the main podcast about what I mean by leadership. Leadership doesn't mean administration. Leadership means exactly what we've just been talking about. You have a lot of people depending on you who really look to you for, what to do next, for guidance, for kind of knowledge breakthroughs, right? If you think about your students, like you are helping them to make the kind of new knowledge that you've been making throughout your career. And so it's a lot, right? It's a lot to lead in that way. And most of the people who come through our Elevate program are that kind of person. I mean, really, like if you downloaded a podcast or subscribed to a private podcast that's called 7 Steps to a Legacy Building Career, you're one of those people. So I want you to think, though, about the kinds of decisions you need to make in order to lead for legacy. What you're really doing when you are leading is helping other people, right? And that kind of helping other people, which involves a lot of you pouring into them, it involves your time, it involves your energy. You need to be pouring into yourself in order to continue to do that effectively. So I think a lot of people who get post-tenure or mid-career feel like, well, I've made it to this level in my career, and so I have a kind of obligation to give back to other people. And I think like that there's nothing wrong with that at all, right? I think that's true. However, you cannot give back to other people. You cannot be the leader that those other people need you to be if you're depleted, if you're exhausted, if you are not also really pouring into yourself. And I imagine that if you're listening to this podcast, you listen to my main podcast as well. And I would refer you to the amazing episode with Despina, who talks about how she really thought when she enrolled in Elevate that she was going to be like, let's learn more productivity. I'm already super great. Let me learn how to do this even better and get even more done. And what she actually learned was how to kind of nurture herself so that she can rest. And by doing that, she's had the effect that she wanted to have. She's become a better wife, a better mother, a better advisor, a better colleague. She's gotten better at all of those things, but not for the reason that she thought she was going to. She thought she was going to learn how to do more and that would make her a better leader. But actually, she learned how to fill herself up, how to do less so that the things you do are more effective. And that is the message of leading for legacy. When you want to, lead for change, right? Which I think, again, if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably like not super happy with like the status quo in academia. And you see the argument for why it is patriarchal and racist and ableist. And you know that it exists in a world with social structures, and you are not happy about it. It's true, but you're not that like keen on it. And so I think all of us don't want to replicate those structures of oppression inside of academia. In some sense, we are going to do it anyway, but with a little bit of consciousness about it, I think we can do so much better. And again, that is leadership, right? Like you're leading people to something new, to a new way of doing things, to new processes and systems, to new beliefs, to new cultural practices. And you do that by embodying a different way of success in academia. And so if the success that you've seen in academia has come from people who never take a vacation, who are at the lab until, midnight every night, who are basically like working all the time, if that is what success has looked like to you, because that's the model that you had, I just want to offer you the idea that it doesn't have to be that way, and that you can be very, very effective. I would even say more effective if you pour into yourself and don't rely on just more and more time working in order to do more work. You won't do as high quality work that way, and you won't do as much work that way, although I don't think that that's as important as the high quality part. So to wrap up the many ideas that I have laid out for you in this little mini podcast episode, post-tenure, you're holding up a lot of people. But if you can't fill yourself, you're not going to be able to fully support all those people that are around you. So what I want you to think about for step number 6 is, what are the things that you're doing to improve your, your professional life? Like, how are you looking for support for yourself? Not support for your students or for your co-authors or for your research center, or support for more grants so that you can buy more equipment and run more experiments, or more grants so that you can go to the archives or travel and collect data over here, or anything like that. What are you doing for you? For you, the person in a body who is the scholar, who is the leader. You are precious. Your brain is expensive. That's what I came to say. Your brain is expensive. It's taking a lot of time and money to get it to where it is. And that is something that deserves care. It deserves rest. It deserves restoration. And you deserve those things. You deserve to rest. You deserve restoration, because that kind of caring for yourself and your person, your brain and the body it's in, that's leadership. Without that, you can't have leadership. I'm sorry. If you are just running to burnout all the time, that's not effective leadership. And that's not going to lead you to a legacy, right? It's not going to lead you to the kind of mark that you want to make in the world. So think about, that's my question for you as we move into tomorrow, which is our last day of this mini private podcast. I want you to think, what are you doing for you? What do you need? What does support look like for you? All right. Before I leave, I just want to give you another chance to register for our Elevate info session. You might get some ideas about what you might need by coming to the info session and learning all about our 6-month coaching program for post-tenure and mid-career scholars. You'll get all the details about what others have learned and done in our program, and about how we run the program, why we founded it, and you get a chance, if you come live, to ask any questions that you might have. All right, have a wonderful day, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'm so honored that you spent your valuable time listening to this episode. Thank you. Before I go, I want to ask you, do you have an almost done article languishing in a virtual drawer? How about a new writing project that you just haven't been able to make the time to start yet? How about a piece of writing in the messy middle that you need to revive? Well, I've got the solution for you. Writing Sprint Blueprint. The Writing Sprint Blueprint is a powerful productivity tool for overwhelmed academics who want to get stalled out publications out of their pipelines and into the world. And it's only $27. And when you grab Writing Sprint Blueprint, you'll get my private motivational podcast feed called Stick to the Plan. It's 10 mini episodes of around a minute each that you can listen to right from your favorite podcast app to motivate you during your writing sprint. So what are you waiting for? Follow the link in the show notes to get Writing Sprint Blueprint today. I'll see you inside.